Alright everybody, so I wanted to finally go ahead and go over my Voidwalker build that I've been using for high-end Nightfalls, raiding, any like high-end PvE content like that. Depending on the situation, you know, the weapon setup will change and varies. However, for the most part, the armor stays the same, the actual skill tree, it stays the same. Well, our subclass, for the most part, its fragments and aspects all stay the same. It's just the weapons that'll vary. So, for instance, this week we have the Nightfall. So my setup for the Nightfall is obviously going to be an Arbalist, and then just an Arc Hand Cannon because it's unstopped. And we have arc burn. However, you know, if it changes, you know, depending on the modifier or anything like that, we can obviously change up our weapons. So let's just talk about the armor and stuff that won't change as much as the weapon. So the way I have the armor set up, it's not the best like roll. I at least have 100 recovery, which is the bare minimum that you need. At least have 100 recovery on your warlock. Still working on farming out better gear to have like a higher discipline. That would be something I really would like, especially on the Voidwalker and just on Warlocks in general. We'll start off with the class mod and the exotic that we're talking about. So we're running this as synth elements. Basically what these do is that whenever you pop your empowering rift, which is what we are running in our Voidwalker, obviously, you're going to grant yourself Devourer. When you grant yourself Devour, this mod right here devours depths. Your Nova Bomb is just going to do more damage. So basically, you pop your Empowering Rift and you instantly give yourself Devour. Your Nova Bomb, you're going to instantly just power up your Nova Bomb, and it's going to do a lot. Even more damage, you know, really good for burst deeps, whether you're doing it in a Nightfall, you're throwing it at Rahulk. The Nova Bomb is going to be just do flat out more damage with these boots on and that mod on. Now, Lucian Finisher does change depending on what's going on. If you're doing an activity where there's no champions or Lucian Hive, you simply just take this off, and then you can run something like Distribution, Energy Vampirism, or anything else you would like to your liking, but just make sure you're keeping Devouring Depths. Or if you want to go ahead and put on one of these, you know, you're able to get some room over here and get yourself maybe another like Shield Crash Well Maker, get yourself an extra well mod if you're not running Lucian Finisher. Maybe you're doing a Nightfall, you have your two other teammates that are running Lucian. You can go ahead, change up your class mod up to your liking if you may ever so choose to. So the filaments, they stay the same. The mods, like literally the scavenger mods will change just depending on what my heavy is. Generally, I'm using rockets though, and especially because, you know, one energy rocket scav is very nice. We do have elemental armaments. This is very important. We gotta at least have elemental armaments on one of our armor pieces. Combatant weapon final blows with a damage type that matches your subclass. Obviously, that's gonna be our void weapon. Have an escalating chance to spawn an elemental well. Very important. Then we also just have things like absolution and then a little bit of a discipline mod. Be our chest piece is another very important piece. For this season, I highly recommend grabbing yourself a void chest piece, just because with a void chest piece, you're able to be able to resist all the elements, because we have the mod season, or the seasonal mod rather, thermoshock plating, which gives you reduced damage from arc and solar. And then if you have a void, you are able to put on the void resist and be able to resist all three. Now, I generally will run double thermoshock. If I'm doing parts of the raid, I will run melee resist, especially if I'm doing caretaker, because I generally am on stun duty. And then maybe I'll run void resist if there's, you know, a lot of ogres. But I generally do have at least one thing of thermoshock. I don't really run reserves. There's not really many encounters that call for reserves that I've found that I really need to have those extra 2 rockets. So I generally never ever run them. Generally rocking 2 things: thermoshock, void resist, or then maybe like some melee resist as well, just depending on the situation. I do like to run Reaping Wellmaker here after activating your class ability, which is going to be our Rift, which we'll be activating a lot. Your next weapon final blow on a combatant spawns a Void Elemental Well. Boom, another form to spawn wells. Very useful, very much so needed. And then really the gloves and the helmet, we're just kind of playing around here. Just the reason why we have Well Tenacity on here is because generally I would run it on our class mod. However, for high-end Nightfalls that I've been doing, especially for this week, I have Lucian Finisher on to make sure that all of us have heavy ammo. However, if I did not have Lucian Finisher on, I would put on Well of Tenacity. I would take that off of my class mod. We put that onto we take that off of our gauntlets, put Well of Tenacity on our class mod, and then in place of that, we could get things like Shield Crash Wellmaker just by doing something like this. However, that's just in a perfect world. But for now, we're playing as if we have Lucian Finisher on, just because the seasonal mod is so dang good. Of course, if you are doing Nightfalls, you would come over here, and then you would obviously put on whatever champion mods that you would need. Unfortunately, you might have to sack off, you know, one of your reloaders. I love having reloader mod. That is part of the reason why we do run Arbalist. Now, do keep in mind though, with these Sicilian filament boots, you will never have to put on overload rounds, so as long as you are just standing in your empowering rift, because your empowering rift with the Sicilian filaments on, or Sicent filaments, they are going to grant all of your weapons going overload rounds. You can stun overloads just with any weapon as long as you are in your empowering rift wearing these exotic legs. Very important. You could save yourself an extra mod slot. Say it's overload anti-barrier. I literally do not have to run a single champion mod just because we have things like Arbalest that's super handy dandy, as well as we have our filaments that grant us overload across the board. And then last but not least, we have our helmet. This is the chest piece that I choose to have volatile flow to give us volatile rounds. Obviously that's very, very important, very strong for Void 3.0 and just Void in general. Being able to have massive added clear with volatile flow from volatile rounds is very, very handy. Part of the reason why we are creating so much elemental wells, as long as along with things like Well of Tenacity, just gives us a little bit of damage reduction, or not Well of Tenacity grants us a little bit of damage reduction. I don't know why I went over to Reaping Well Maker, but you get my point. We're creating elemental wells that give us a lot of bonuses, damage reduction, volatile rounds, which is crucial for added clearing. Now, if we had if the Nightfall had Void Burn, we could easily put on things like a Palindrome if you want to use a hand cannon. Obviously, the most used weapon, especially me included, is this. It's just the funnel web. It's super good this season. A lot of people are just fall in love with it. It's so good, so strong. Really good perk pool. Things like Subsistence, Adrenaline Junkie, very, very solid stuff. And to combine that with things like the Vice Sting or Origin traits, just very, very good for added clearing. Put that some volatile rounds in that puppy, it's even better. I also do have things like a Gnawing Hunger though. Just hey, if I want to use an auto rifle, I can. Got a Palindrome as well. You have some good options here. So as long as you have a good solid Void weapon to help clear out ads, get your volatile flow rounds doing their things, we're all good. So let's go ahead and go over our actual subclass and our fragments and our aspects. Obviously, we are going to be using things like Feed the Void, and then we're going to be using Child of the Old Gods. Very, very useful. The Void Soul is just very, very good. Pairs well with the Empowering Rift. You don't have to be sitting in your Rift. I mean, as long as you have your Empowering Rift, which you will be with the Filaments, you'll be getting health with this beautiful Child of the Old Gods Void Soul. Also, anybody who's been tagged by this and you drop them, you're going to be granted back Rift Energy, which is very, very strong, very important, because our Rifts are kind of our main bread and butter here. Also, I'm just using Burst Glide, and I like to use Suppressor Grenades, especially for the Nightfalls. Those Lucent Highs, man, those can be really annoying. Throw this at their feet. No super for you, sir. Get denied. So our fragments are pretty follow. We have Bloom, or Echo of Expulsion, which is very, very nice. Obviously, we have Echo of Undermining, so that we applied a weakening effect with our grenade. And then I have found that Echo of Obscurity is very, very, very useful for higher end in-game content in PvE. This is very useful in things like Nightfalls and things like hard raids, low man challenges, maybe not so low man challenges, but just things where you need to stay alive, which is harder stuff in the game. GMs, whenever those release this season, this thing will be very, very, very useful. Combine that with Echo of Persistence, our Invisibility and our Devourer are going to last even longer, which is very, very strong. Combine that with the Empowering Rift, you can literally have Devourer up almost at all times. And then, hey, when you got another Rift up, just chuck your Nova Bomb, dude, because you're going to have another one right there to go. Keep that in mind. I really found that just being able to go invisible, like just finishing like some trash mobs and then just being able to go invisible for like a good solid 10 seconds, that's very, very useful. Even just a solid 5 seconds. Very, very useful in general. Plus, it gives you recovery, which is very, very nice. And then once again, for the weapons, these do be changing up. If you want to run, like an Izzy and then like a rocket launcher combo, go ahead, do that. I'm not the strongest with the Izzy combo, still working on that. But hey, I also, I have things like a Thoughtless on standby, and then if I have to run the G-Horn, I can. Maybe I want to run Sleeper, I can. If I want to run Parasite, guess what? I can. Well, maybe if I have a heavy slot, or maybe I want to run like a Vorpal Linear Fusion, and then Witherhoard, I can. This is generally like the setup I run at Hulk, Witherhoard, Threaded Needle. Outbreak is very useful in some higher end, like difficult PvE stuff, just because this kinetic does a lot more damage because of the nanites. But really, just as long as you got your Void weapon on standby to be your anchor of the whole build with volatile rounds, then you are all good to go. Decide on how you want to do your deeps and your kinetic and heavy slots. Go about that your own way. I gave you all a few examples that I like to use, but yeah. Other than that, though, guys, that's really just about it. Gonna wrap up the video. Hope y'all did enjoy. If you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to drop below in the like button, subscribe if y'all are new. And yeah, let me know your thoughts and opinions on what kind of build y'all have been using for this season. And my name's Kree. We'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.